And we're live. Today I have here Ross Weyandt. I'm glad I said that correct.
Nailed on those.
But it's really good to have you. There's the strength coach in my school, Eastern University, and you're very popular.
Assistant. Let's not put me too far ahead of the game. I'm only an assistant.
Assistant. Okay. We can roll with that. You're probably the most, in my opinion. I hear your name everywhere, so that's why I thought you were the main strength coach. But it's probably because you're very affable as a person, so that's usually why.
Appreciate that.
No problem. So I was looking at your Instagram and it had this quote. It says, "Nothing changes if nothing changes." And it actually was, when I was reading that, I was like, that's different. Actually, that's very different. I want to know why that quote, because a quote on Instagram means something to someone. It's not just a Pinterest thing. Why you put that there?
Well, I'm not entirely sure where I got it from. I know someone who's a lot smarter and a lot wiser than I am, but I heard it from someone. I think it was one of my former coaches or one of the coaches I worked under, and it resonates with me because everyone gets into these spiels and they have all these inspirational quotes and they have all these things.
Yeah.
And those things work for a while, I feel. And you can get all riled up and go rah, let's go run through a brick wall or something at any given kind of speech. But I mean, at the end of the day, that can only do so much for you. If you're not willing to make some sort of change, nothing else is going to change in that life. It's kind of, I view it as a domino effect. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
If it's something beyond that, but it's kind of that just domino effect, whether it's in your own life, whether it's in habits, personal practices, bigger social change, whatever it is. If nothing changes, if nothing changes from the status quo, nothing else is gonna change as a result.
Yeah, I like that. For change in someone's life, you personally too. Do you think it normally starts with a mindset change or some sort of behavioral change? To actually have something change in life, do you think it's something towards the mind or some towards an actual action?
Oh, 100%. I think it can change. It can come from a lot of areas. I believe, that there has to be a mind shift change somewhere because, I mean, mindset, I believe, and we can delve deeper into that if you want to, but mindset is something that I think is going to be something that drives how you do everything. One of the sport coaches who I got to work under at Kent State, where I came from before I came to Eastern, he was always talking about how you do anything is how you do everything. And it's very, and that's a more common saying. I've heard it everywhere, but it's one of those things where, I mean, the people who show up and they work hard at their 9-to-5 job, they're going to work hard, whether they're washing dishes or whether they're raising their kids, whatever it is. So I think every change anyone wants to make is going to have to come with a mindset change. I mean, you can't expect to want to go. I mean, I'm a strength coach, so I make a lot of fitness analogies and references, but you're not going to be able to go if you've been sitting on a couch your entire life and suddenly just go and run an Ironman or run a marathon or something. There has to be a mind shift there, and that's an extreme example. But I mean, even if it just goes for that same person who's sitting on the couch, if they want to go to the gym and just ride a recumbent bike for 30 minutes, I mean, there's going to have to be some sort of mindset shift there where they find a way to better themselves or whatever the case may be, where they're going to have to change those habits, and that comes from changing their mindset.
Yeah, mindset change, I think, is quite important. There's a lot of things that, me personally, I've had to well, I'm 20 years old, so my experiences in life has been very different from yours, and not as much, but in a lot of things, especially the last few years, it required a lot of mindset shift. It's okay, I went through a slight depression stage like, oh, this 2020, and not even because of COVID, it was just something else. And basically for me to actually come out of it, it was it was a lot of mindset stuff. It was a lot of like, don't beat yourself down for what's going on. Like, don't do that, don't do this. It's just more like, look on the bright side, think about this, start walking around, and like just like all that. Because with the mindset change, what happens? You have more of an action that takes place after too. So I think that's pretty dope though. Like, I like that quote a lot. That quote is like actually something that should be said more often, is nothing will change if nothing changes. Like,
Yeah.
it's as simple as that. So
Yeah, like it really is. And I mean, I guess that's why I'm drawn to it. Like there's no rah, there's no just extra things.
Yeah,
Start with a small.
It's there's no sparkles in there like this. It's nothing galvanizing.
Yeah.
It's just something very simple. And like, just go back to, I just want to talk about more of your background. Like, did you play any sports in high school, college? Did you do any of that?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I'll just give you the rundown of, I guess, my life to this point. I wouldn't say I was like the go get 'em active kid growing up. I honestly didn't start playing competitive sports until like 6th or 7th grade.
Wow.
I was the typical, I guess you call it like the fat kid in school. I was big. Like I was like somewhere like 5'6" to 5'8" in 6th or 7th grade. So like taller than the average 6th grader, but I was pushing like 180, 200 pounds. So like I like to call myself like the Pillsbury Doughboy. Like I was that little fella and hadn't hit puberty yet. So like I still had the high voice. So like Pillsbury Doughboy is like the image you want to get. But yeah, started playing competitive sports around that age. Really fell in love with them. I enjoyed the competition. That is, a competitor is probably one of my main, like if you had to divide my being into different traits like that, be probably one of the main pillars, just competitiveness.
Yeah,
but that was something I fell in love with, just that competitive aspect. Continued playing sports. There was a period of time in there where I said I was a bigger guy than I hit. Like, I hit a growth spurt. I sprouted up to, I think, the height I am now, which is 6'2", and
lucky you.
Still, yeah. don't need a stool to reach the top shelf. That's something I always. But yeah, I sprouted up. But then I got freaking beanpole skinny. I was like 6'2", 150 pounds, I think, my freshman year in high school. So I was a skinny kid.
Mm-hmm.
So, not exactly an imposing physical specimen, I would say. Not that I'm that by any means now.
Yeah.
Definitely,
humbleness, yeah.
Definitely nothing that anyone was scared to look at or play against. There was a lot of stuff that went in kind of like between that 8th to like my 11th grade year of high school, where it was kind of me going through. There was a period where I was anorexic and there were body image issues where I was trying to struggle with, like, okay, like I was a really fat kid and now I'm the super skinny kid. And I'm like, super skinny kid is obviously more athletic or more well-trained. So like I can't get fat. And there were just periods where that, and there's even still days like currently where they're body image stuff, but that's more something I've gotten much better dealing with. But anyway, continuing on.
It's a life process itself though.
Yeah. That's a whole nother, exactly, like process and discussion. And back to that mindset thing, is like there's small mindset shifts you have to make there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, going into the end of my sophomore year of high school, going into junior year, I played football, basketball, ran track, but basketball was my main sport. Basketball was the one that I was just like, I was in love with it. Going into my junior year, my sophomore year, I got in spot minutes on the varsity team. More of just kind of like an energy guy, like throw him in there. Just, I was long, lanky, and just kind of, I was a sophomore. Like I was just pumped to be getting time on a Friday night basketball court. Like just letting go out there and just run wild.
The dream,
exactly. Yeah. Just no responsibilities. Like I got maybe, if I was lucky, 3 minutes a night, just go out there and just do whatever. If you want to freaking foul people, go foul people. Just create havoc. But we had nine seniors on that team. So they all graduated. My coach came up to me and he said, "Hey man, listen, you are 160 pounds. You are not going to hold up for a full season playing varsity basketball. I need you to gain weight if we want to have a chance at continuing our success from last year." And so that summer between my sophomore year of high school going into my junior year was where I guess developed my love for training. Not that I knew what training was by any means at that point, but I lived in that high school weight room that we had. I went from 6'2", 160 pounds in like May of that year to when we tipped off for preseason training at the end of October, I was 198 pounds. So
wow.
I was hammering peanut butter and jellies. I was freaking anything you can imagine. I was on a seafood diet, as I saw it. I see food and I eat food. That was what I was doing in the summer. I didn't know what I was doing in the weight room, but
wow,
it was really cool to just see my body change throughout that summer. And just, I mean, it was something that it definitely sprouted and planted the seed to get me to where I am now.
Yes.
But yeah, so then getting out of high school, I absolutely despise school. Like to this day, I hate, like I could have, and hate is not an understatement. Like despise the educational institution. I think it's very just poorly run.
I can agree with that.
It doesn't do what it's designed to do. And I did not want to go to college. Coming out of high school, I was entirely set I was going to go enlist and I was going to be freaking send me somewhere and just let me go.
Ranger. I could see that. Like just looking at you, I could see a military man.
It was something like I was dead set on it. I even tried to talk like my high school and let me graduate a semester early so that I could just get into basic training and go. And that's something that's still, I don't know. It still interests me, and I still hold a great deal of respect and awe towards the military and just that commitment and stuff, the things they have to do.
Yeah. Why didn't you go?
My mom talked me out of it. She said, give college a try for 1 year. If you absolutely hate it, go and you can go do that. She was terrified of seeing her youngest son, or not her youngest son, her firstborn son, go and just enlist, which is, I mean, I feel like any mother or father, any parent seeing their kid want to go enlist is definitely, I feel,
scary.
There's a lot of fear that comes with that. So I can respect it. So started college, and that first year, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was going, just looking through the different things, and they're like, "Oh, you should do business." And I said, "I don't want to do business. Like, I don't want to wear a suit and tie for the rest of my life. I don't want to do that. I don't want to." Like, "Oh, why don't you go? Like, you've always been good at writing." I said, I don't want to be an English major. Like, they make zero money. Like, they're not going to do anything, which funny enough, I'm a strength coach now and we still make zero money, but
oh, that is it.
But so I ended up settling on an exercise science degree from Kent, which our exercise science department, the faculty at Kent, they did a great job. I learned a lot of stuff from the faculty there in that program, but I say they had 3 different tracks. They had a pre-PT track, exercise physiology track, and then I think it was like exercise specialist track. And the only reason I picked the exercise specialist track was solely because it did not require me to take anything beyond general chemistry 2. I said that's the one. It has exercise in the name, and it doesn't require me to take advanced chemistries. So
yeah, that's a tough class either way. So
yeah, signed up for that one. I said, all right, let's do this. Let's see what happens. And then December of that year, I don't remember what year it was, but December of that year, had a family friend who's an eye doctor. Weirdly enough, how connections work. Who's an eye doctor who called me and goes, "Hey, I know you're an exercise science major at Kent. Like, I just had a guy come into my office who is the strength coach for the men's and women's basketball team at Kent State. And somehow you got brought up, and I mentioned your name, and he said, here's my number. Like, if he's interested, tell him to give me a call. So I said, sweet. I said, I mean, up until this point, I really didn't know what a strength conditioning coach was.
Yeah.
I was still very much doing, like, I don't know. I just go into the gym, and I think we're going to dive into it later, but I was just exercising as I would call it. And I was just going in there and doing whatever and just, I don't know, buys and tries, because big arms are the coolest thing in the world.
It's true. Chest.
And chest. You know, honestly, if you just have baggy pants on, there's no need to do legs anyway.
That's 2000 right there.
Yeah. But so yeah, I ended up giving him a call. Coach Ren Vale, he's now the head of women's basketball strength and conditioning at the University of Pittsburgh.
Oh,
but
wow.
I gave him a call. But yeah, man, I mean, if you want to come in and intern for us, you can come in and help with the basketball teams in the spring. I said, okay, cool. That sounds fun. I love basketball and I love exercise. This sounds like the perfect deal. So I went in there, and that was where I got introduced to the world of strength conditioning, and it blew my mind. I walked in there, and I had the traditional mindset of, you know, okay, I'm going to go in on Mondays. We're going to go, you know, bench and shoulders. Then we're going to go like back and buys the next day, then just straight legs, and then, you know, just get a pump down Friday or whatever.
Yeah.
I go in there, and he starts talking to me about all these different things like Joe Ken's tier system and triphasic training and all these other just training methodologies developed by all these brilliant coaches. And I'm sitting there just jaws on the floor, just absolutely lost. I'm like, what are these things you're talking about? And I was just, okay, this is interesting. This is cool. There's obviously a lot more to this whole training thing than I thought. So then I spent the next 2 years. Yeah, 2 years at Kent. I started with men's and women's basketball that spring. Worked with them. Coach Vale left in May of that year. What was that, 2018, 19? I don't know what it was, 2018, 19, somewhere in there. Left for Pitt. And so then I was still helping with basketball that summer. As the new coach, Coach Cox, came in. I was working with the head of strength and conditioning at Kent State, Coach Lemieux, just helping them with basketball. I got to work with the women's volleyball teams, the golf team, wrestling. I just got this exposure to all of this stuff, and I was learning so much. I was falling in love with the profession.
Yeah.
And so then I had the opportunity in the spring of 2019 to go intern with the other strength coaches on staff. Kent State had 5 strength coaches full-time there. So I'd worked with Coach Cox and Coach Lemieux for the summer of 2018 and the fall. And I had the opportunity to go help out with our football team and the rest of our Olympic sports that worked out at our field house, which was on the other side of campus from where our basketball program trained. So I got to work with a bunch of great coaches out there, Coach Sobel, Coach Ori, Coach Wayne, and then got to work under them. Worked under a great intern out there too, Anton Gatos, who's he's at Indiana State now, working with their program. Yeah, but
pretty good.
It was just this whole nother experience. Like college basketball, I was like, okay, like this is fun, this is cool.
Yeah.
Then college football, there's just something special about training a college football team. College football is a machine, and I don't think a lot of outsiders recognize it. But college football, a college football team at the Division I level, honestly, at most, actually at all levels, doesn't matter, never stops. There's always something going on with that college football team. Kent, we started our off-season training the second week of January. We'd run off-season training from the second week of January all the way through the end of February to the first week of March.
Yeah.
Once our off-season training starts, they start 4 to 5 weeks of spring ball. So they have their spring practices ending with the spring game at the end of April, beginning of May. Then this is the only time the college football machine really gets a break. They get kind of like May off to go and rest and recover, reload, let the players go. Then usually June 1st or the first Tuesday right after Memorial Day is when summer workouts start. And summer workouts, we were rolling in there at 5:45, 6 a.m., 5:30 some mornings, setting up for these guys. They'd roll in. We'd start field conditioning and agility stuff at 7. That go until like 8:30. Lifts would start at 9. Lifts would roll all the way through like 11:30 or noon. We'd get a little break. Then we'd have our freshman group coming in around 2 or 3. Then we'd have just like local athletes who were from our other sports rolling in throughout the day. So it's just a constant machine. Then end of July, usually give the guys about 3 or 4 days to recoup. August starts, you get fall camp going into the preseason. And then games start the end of August, roll all the way through the end of November. And then if you're fortunate enough to make a bowl, you've got bowl season through December and January. And then once bowl season ends, you're right back into off-season trainings. So it never stops. But the thing with it never stopping is it just gives – like, I mean, so as strength coaches, we're just always like, we've always got something to do, always got another hat to wear, just another thing to do. And it's just it's a go, go, go kind of thing, which is, it's appealing to a lot of people, but it also drives a lot of people out of the profession. But yeah, so I was fortunate enough in the spring of 2019, January 2019, to start with Kent State football. Interning with them. Spent that spring with them in their off-season conditioning programs, their lifting, spring ball with them. And then when the current head intern there, my guy Anton, who's now at Indiana State, I said he ended up leaving for Indiana State, got a GA position there. And they approached me and they said, hey, we like what you do. You seem committed to us. Do you want to come be our head intern for the summer? So essentially, they said that essentially what that was to them is I was going to be the fourth guy for football. I was going to be the fourth strength coach. I wasn't making like any big call or big name decisions, but I was essentially there, and I got to essentially be an extension of the 3 full-time football coaches. And it was just a whole nother experience unto itself, just being there, learn from those guys, get to grow and learn as a coach. It was absolutely insane and phenomenal. So spent all summer with them, rolled into fall camp still with them. I still had to finish my degree. I was finishing in December of that year. Get them rolling with them, and it's just I was loving it. Like, it was absolutely crazy. Just go, like I was saying. Just long days, but I mean, when you get to train athletes all the time and just see that constant improvement, super rewarding.
It definitely sounds like you had like a lot of experiences and like hands-on like work with that. Like it doesn't even sound like it was a degree. It sounds like it was more of an experience. And
I tell people this all the time, is that there are things I learned from my Kent State degree, but everything I'm using now, I learned from those guys at Kent and the strength staff. Everything I use now, I learned from them, where they point in the direction to learn things from those guys. Yeah, those 6 coaches I worked under at Kent, just looking at it now, like where I am now, I thought I asked them a decent amount of questions now, but now that I'm on my own, I recognize there's still so much that I don't know about this profession. And it's one of those things I'm like, crap, I gotta text them, or I gotta call them up and be, hey, like, what do I do in this situation? What do I do in this situation? Because this is something that I thought I knew what I was getting into, but it's that same step. When I started that internship at Kent, didn't know what I was getting into, and I said, oh my gosh, there's so much more to training. And I said, okay, I'm gonna go take this GA assistant position. I think I know what to expect, and it's so just there's always another level, and there's always just so much more you can learn. So yeah, I guess just to get to where I am now, Spent that entire 2019 calendar year with Kent State football. I was fortunate enough to be part of Kent State's first ever team in program history to win a bowl game, the Cafe Frisco Bowl, down in Texas. So that was pretty awesome to be.
That sounds super dope.
Part of that moment for the guys, the kids who put in all that work that summer to see their work and their buy-in and their belief in the culture that coaching staff was implementing. Because Kent State up until the last 2 years they had I believe it's 2 winning seasons since 1989.
Jeez.
So that coaching staff came in and really just sold these guys, turned that program around. So it was really cool.
Yeah.
I wasn't there from the start when they got there, but it was really cool to be able to see and be a part of just a small part. I mean, I wouldn't even say I was a big part, but just a small part of being able to see their work come to fruition and then see the guys get to have that. So then end of 2019, graduated from Kent. Wasn't entirely sure. Like, I love strength and conditioning coaching, but I kind of mentioned earlier, it's go, go, go. Like there's no rest for the weary in strength and conditioning. Like it is a full-time job. I mean, most days we're fortunate enough here at Eastern that we have a big enough staff. We can kind of divide up the workload, but I mean, most places you go, most strength coaches you talk to, you're in at the latest on most days by 6 a.m. and you're out of there. You're out by 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. every night. So I mean, it's long days. If you're not built for it weeds you out pretty quickly. And that was something I was just kind of I think I want to do this, but I wasn't entirely sure. I had a couple other opportunities at couple different universities that didn't end up working out. Some through just outside factors that couldn't handle, that I couldn't control and those universities couldn't control, and then some through just my own kind of indecisiveness. And it was something that if I knew what I knew now, I would have hopped on those opportunities. But I wasn't sure, and I wasn't entirely, I guess, set in the path I wanted to take.
Yes.
There was that just kind of uncertainty and trying to figure out what I wanted, and may have unfortunately burned a few bridges with that. And just, I mean, you live and you learn, and you hope. I mean, I hope eventually I get the chance to talk to some of those coaches again who I was able and fortunate enough to just even talk to. I mean, just talk with them, hopefully learn from them again in the future. But then 2020 came, and everyone knows how 2020 went. The world shut down. I was kind of just stuck in this limbo period of like, okay, what do I do now? Like I was driving school buses at the start of 2020 because I needed a job, but I needed to find money. So I was driving school buses. I was training some high school on the side, just trying to figure it out. And over, I think 2020 was, and I know a lot of people struggle, and I'm not trying to make light of all the stuff that happened, but for me, it was a blessing, honestly, to be able to sit there and have coaching kind of taken away from me. So I sat there, and it was a realization I had where I recognized that, okay, this is what I want to do. I wasn't sure of it, but to have it taken away from me, I could see. I said, okay, but that's what I want to do. It's either I'm either going to go coach or like I'm going to enlist, and that's something I hold to this day. Like when I'm done coaching, like if for whatever reason this coaching thing falls out, like I'm enlisting. I don't care if I'm 40 years old and they don't want to take me. I'll fake my mistake. But so then I just started reaching out in June because no one knew what the world was going to look like come the next academic year, come August of last year. And so I just started Googling every morning, just strength conditioning jobs, graduate assistant positions, just looking for something, trying to get back in, because strength conditioning, a lot of people don't realize it's very hard, especially at the collegiate level. I mean, the private sector, you can do a lot of things with it, but at the collegiate level, once you get out of it, it is so hard to get back into it. You have to essentially start from ground zero again. So I had this clock ticking in the back of my head where I knew that like there was going to come a time where if I didn't get back in quickly, I was going to have to start back from ground zero and be an intern again somewhere, working for free, working like 50, 60-hour weeks for free again.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was just like, okay, like I got to find something. And then luckily the position for Eastern opened up. I applied. Coach Bing interviewed me and gracious enough to offer me the position. I said, I'm in. Let's do this. Like, let's go. And here I am.
Yeah. That's a story right there. Yeah.
It sounds better. I think I planned it out in my head because I figured it was coming the last couple of days. I said, all right, like how can I make myself sound so much cooler than I actually am?
You had a lot of adventures with that. Like, there's a lot of questions I have within the story you just asked. But before I go into like the very juicy one, like you coaching for football, strength coaching for football.
Yeah.
Like, I heard that like football players are very like ritualistic, as in like if they add you as like a strength coach, right, and like a certain player as you, like sometimes that player would not ever want to have anyone else help them except that person, you know? Like, did you see something like that ever?
I think I kind of know what you're talking about. I think you see that a lot more with, I guess, not, I have never seen it personally.
Yeah.
Those guys, they had, I mean, yeah, there are football guys. Like they have their pregame rituals. They have their things where they have to do. But with every football guy I've worked with, they've been very open and taking coaching from anyone. It just comes down to making sure that they trust you.
Yeah,
Making sure that they know that you have their best interests at
yeah.
heart. Because yeah, I mean, it's and that's part of the reason I love the coaching profession, because when you look at it, you have the opportunity as a coach to mold these young men and women and kind of shape a small part of their lives, hopefully for the better.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there are some of my athletes who will listen to this and say, Coach Ross sucks. He puts us through these worst workouts. I can't move after him. But I mean, I know what you're talking about. Like there are certain, you see it a lot with professional guys who like swear by the training of X, Y, and Z trainer, X, Y, and Z coach.
Like Tom Brady himself.
Yeah. Tom.
Like he doesn't even want to lift weights half of the time. It's like his own trainer. It's all like pliability, I think, and I can't.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's a whole nother like rabbit hole we can dive. It's like the differences in people's training, and there's 1,000 different ways to skin a cat. None of them necessarily wrong. They're just maybe better ways, or
there's nuances.
Yeah, there are nuances. Coaching is so much of an art form, especially strength conditioning coaching.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it just comes down to, I mean, if you show your athletes that you care about them, and you are there to help them.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you're preaching to them, they're going to listen.
That's perfect. That's good. Like, also, what is like strength and conditioning though? Like, that's I'm kind of like confused because like personally, I thought like coaching is just like, oh, you have this wrist problem. Okay, this is that. But like ever since like I started like Eastern and everything.
Yeah.
I noticed that I think high school and college are very different when it comes to athletes. Their athletics, like college really, because it's wear and tear. Like you're going through hours of practice. You cannot expect one person to just like, not have an injury or just an ache or a pain. Like I get injured so often. So often. So like, what is like strength and conditioning? Like what do you do?
Oh, what don't we do should be the question. Now, luckily, and I say this very truthfully, I am so glad we don't have to deal with injuries. Mostly, well, for my own personal standpoint, like I don't handle like gruesome injuries well. So thankfully, that's why we have athletic. That's why we have the athletic trainers to handle that stuff. And Eastern, we have a whole team. Our athletic trainers are absolutely awesome. At Kent, our athletic trainers are absolutely terrific there too.
Yeah, like what's the difference between athletic training and also like strength and conditioning? Like that's the thing. I have an issue with, because like I viewed them as one of the same, but it seems like they're not.
Oh, they're so. I mean, what's the best way I can put it? They're in the same family tree. Let's put it that way. Like they're in the same family tree, but they're like second cousins or something. Like they work together, but they're not exactly a they're not like brothers or sisters. They're not identical. So, and to any athletic trainer listening or any athletic trainers I've worked with, I apologize because I'm going to undersell what you guys do. But they athletic trainers jobs and their purpose, and they probably do so many things that I don't know that they do, but their goal is the rehabilitation and prehab and prevention of injuries, which the prevention part I'll get into strength and conditioning too, but they look at more of a health and injury standpoint where it's like, okay, this player had X surgery. How can we help them get back to where they were, just like from a movement standpoint? They deal a lot more with the more medical side of health. So injuries, illnesses, all of that stuff. The nuanced, the much more smarter and intelligent stuff than the pick up and put down heavy things.
Mm-hmm.
Which is where the strength coaches, we deal more, I guess, in the performance aspect of things. And that's something, honestly, within the strength and conditioning community has been kind of a topic of discussion in the last probably 5 years. So before I got into it, but something that people have been discussing, like Kent State, they used to be Kent State Strength and Conditioning, but now they're Kent State Sports Performance because strength coaches do more than strength and conditioning. And then there's I can't think of a college off the top or college or university off the top of my head, but there's some where their strength conditioning department is called like athlete well-being and performance something or another. Like there's just so much that goes into a strength and conditioning standpoint. We can be, strength and conditioning at the core. We're here to help our athletes perform better at their sports, and that, like, end of the day, like, we're here to help our athletes perform better. But that can take a lot of forms. That can be at smaller schools like Eastern. We can be kind of like the nutritional, where our athletes turn to like, okay, like what do I eat? What do I do like this? Which is technically outside of our scope of practice, but we receive some nutritional education. So we can point them in the right area. But then at a school like Kent that has, and by no means is Kent a massive Division I school, but they had a registered dietitian on staff specifically for our athletes.
Jeez.
To help them use. So it's like, strength coaches, at the end of the day, our ideal job, we would just be focused on helping our athletes perform better, be that getting them stronger, faster, more agile, jump higher, whatever it is. But yeah, there are a lot of different things we do. But that is kind of the difference between the athletic training and the strength conditioning realm.
Yeah, because like I like how you mentioned nutrition. That's like one of my passions that I have, and like with what I've seen that's helped me very well to reduce injury over time is having a proper diet, because no amount of training can ever fight terrible diet.
You can't out-train a bad diet.
Yeah, you can't out-train it at all. And it's somewhat problematic because like nutrition is also very problematic, and just there's too many things going on in that nutrition world. There's this online saying that this fad diet will work for you, this will work for you, this will work for you, and like experimentation helps, but like athletes like that you help with conditioning and strength, like if they came to you and like, I'm trying to gain weight, first of all, you have experience on how to do that. First of all, right? You said everything was food at the time.
Yeah.
you have experience with that, and also I'm glad that you can also kind of give in a certain sense, like the individual what to do in that area of nutrition, because you definitely know that, right? And also with strength, when you talk about condition, are you talking about more of like making sure that this person's, like, let's say they're having wrist issues, right? Before they have an injury, are you trying to make sure that that wrist becomes stronger and more like flexible over time so they do not have an injury? Like, so you do a lot of prevention, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. That's something I try to work into all of my training sessions. I want some sort of preventative care, hopefully, so that we can get areas that are proven to be like areas of weakness or high risk areas for certain athletes. My women's soccer team, for example, women's soccer has, and these facts may be a little bit out of date, but they have one of the highest, if not the highest, occurrence of ACL injuries and concussions in all of sports. So, yeah, in all of sports. So that's something. I mean, it's a little harder to work with the concussion stuff because there's so much that goes into concussions. But I mean, there are certain things you can do with neck exercise and other things that help, to a certain degree, help reduce the risk of concussions. But then, like in terms of ACL stuff, I'm working on getting their hips stronger, getting their abductors and adductors on their legs stronger, trying to support the mechanisms that support the ACL so that that system is as strong as it can be, and hopefully put them in a position where, knock on wood, they don't get an ACL injury.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's quite important. I don't ever want to get an ACL injury. Like, I'm a runner, so like it's quite rare to see a runner tear their ACL, which is
but meniscus is I was
always it's a problem. I had IT band syndrome for it's still there now. It's still there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm doing a lot of stuff with strengthening my glutes and making sure my hips are better. So like I think that's quite important though, because would I say functional strength in a certain is that the right way to say it? Functional strength. Just I think that's very important when it comes to like condition, in my opinion, because like a lot of people do like isolated. I've always had an issue with people doing isolated, only just like a isolated exercise. And it was a little bit of a problem because like I saw it myself and I was just like just targeting one area of my body, but like overall there's an imbalance. If you do way more upper body and you never focus on lower body, there's going to be an imbalance, right?
Yeah.
And then you focus a lot of lower body but not upper body, there's also an imbalance. So like that's the issue. So like, how important is functional strength? How important is like what do you think about the whole like just concentrating on one single body part? Like, a lot of people do that, like as you say, the biceps and the chest and everything. Like, what's up with that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. In fact, I mean, for you look at most of the world, I think that's totally fine for them. But when you get into the strength and conditioning realm, you can't do that with athletes, because athletes, when they're playing their sports, they're never just going to use one aspect of their body. It's got to be those, I mean, they're coined those functional movements, but you got to look at those things. You're looking to develop total body strength and power, and see all of those things, because athletics demand so much more than just looking fit. They have to be able to be strong. They have to be able to produce force at different angles. They have to they have to be able to do so much. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with going in and hitting a back and buys day or a straight chest day or whatever. Hitting, because that training is, I mean, it's training at the end of the day.
Yes.
It's the ideal training for athletes.
That's interesting though, because like when you said you started doing your internship and then you learned the difference between like training and exercise.
Yeah.
Could you like further go into that? Because that's actually very interesting, like training and exercise. Some people can actually view them as the same thing, but because exercise will probably come up in training in certain sense, right?
In a way,
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
lost.
yeah. So I viewed in that, and this is kind of, that's just like a smaller part of just like something that is just a personal grievance I have
Mm-hmm.
for strength coaches in general, is because so many people think like, oh, a strength coach is just a personal trainer, or a personal trainer is just a strength coach. And I'm not trying to knock any personal trainers out there, but what strength coaches do is so much more than what your average personal trainer does.
Yeah.
Strength coaches, and I'm generalizing here, but I'm going to go out and say 90% of strength coaches at the collegiate level, be it Division 1, 2, 3, NAIA, whatever, have an undergraduate degree in exercise science. And then most of those coaches, I'd say at least 70% of them, have some sort of advanced degree, maybe not necessarily in exercise science, but they have at least another 2 years where they were working under a head coach somewhere, kind of like what I'm doing now, learning the ropes, learning how to coach better, and learning to improve. So
Yeah.
there is in there 6 years of education, not counting internships and all those other things that strength coaches have, whereas personal trainers, you can get a personal training certificate in a weekend.
Yeah, online. Yes.
Yeah. So that just starts my whole kind of like, people don't truly understand what a strength coach is, and it's not their fault, but it's just something that annoys me slightly as someone in the profession.
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of goes into that training versus exercise thing, because people don't necessarily understand, and a lot of athletes you see, they come in, and I mean you look at certain men's teams, and not even like, not at our university, like not necessarily singling out certain teams at our university, but this happens all over the country, where guys will come in and they'll get extra work post like a team lift, which I'm not saying is wrong. Like, go and like do your thing. If you guys can handle it, go for it.
Yeah.
But like the training that we are putting together as strength coaches, it's progressive overload. We're looking at building a long-term and building a foundation to then build you guys up to get the specific traits you need to be successful athletes. There's a plan behind it. There's intention behind everything we do. Like, I tell all my teams, I tell them at any time they can ask me why we're doing a certain exercise or why we're doing a certain drill or activity.
Yeah.
If I cannot give them a reason for it, and I caveat it and I say, you may not like my reason for it, but I will always have a reason for you. But if I cannot give you a reason as to why we're doing something, we're never going to do it again. I'm going to throw it out and it's going to be gone, because there has to be intention. There has to be a plan behind our training. And that's where training is. Like, there's a plan behind it. It's intentional. It's going somewhere. It's building towards something. Where exercise, I think, is what a lot of people do at the gym. And there's nothing wrong with exercise, because exercise is good for you. It helps you. There's so many benefits.
It's so important.
Mental, physical, just general total body health. Exercise is super important, but exercise is less structured. It's not necessarily as planned. You'll see people going to the gym and they'll lift weights, but if they're going to the gym and they're doing the exact same bench exercise or bench lift or whatever, the same workout every single day, day after day, eventually they're not going to really see benefits from that. There's no plan behind it. If you go in and you bench 5 sets of 5 every day, and you do that every Tuesday and every Saturday for the rest of eternity, and you don't add any weight, there's no progression. There's no plan. You're just doing the same thing. And that's where I think people get confused. They say, oh, I'm exercising, which means I'm training. But you can go and do whatever in the gym. But if there's no plan behind it, there's no intention behind it, you're not training. You're just exercising.
What do you find yourself personally doing more?
I'm training. There are days I trend more towards exercise, but I'm training, and I say this because I wasn't good enough to play real sports or to continue on in real sports beyond high school. I do CrossFit now, which has
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, which has a bad rap in the strength conditioning community, but I'm training to do competitive CrossFit because I was not good enough to play real sports, so now I CrossFit.
CrossFit is a very interesting thing, though. Like, I don't know. It's one of those topics that, like, especially since you're a strength and conditioning coach, it's interesting that you chose CrossFit to actually go ahead. Like, because there's like Ironmans, right? I'm a big like, this is BPN, beer performance nutrition.
Isn't that Nick Bear?
Nick Bear, yeah. So he runs Ironman all the time. Like, he just finished a marathon actually. It was sub 3, 2 hours and 56 minutes. I think it was like pretty good in my opinion.
That is a solid marathon time.
Yeah, I will probably never reach that peak in my opinion.
My all-time goal in the marathon is sub 3:30, but that's going to come after about 20 pounds. Right now, I'm sitting in like a 4.5-hour marathon. So
4.5. That's pretty good. That's still decent though, because my thing is like he has a whole thing saying go one more, right? That's where I was reeled in by, because it was a time when like I really found Nick Bear during the time of like I mentioned earlier, where I was like really depressed, and like that quote "go one more" actually stuck to me for some reason. It was just like, well, like there's a movie I used to like, Lone Survivor. I still, yeah, it's like I mean, they have this quote. It's a funny quote, but like anything in life worth doing is worth overdoing. Moderation is for cowards. Right?
Yeah.
So like that part, like that quote comes in my head time to time. But like that "go one more" is like, yeah, you can. First of all, if you end up just going to a marathon, let's say you walked it, ran it, just a marathon itself, that's tough, right?
Yeah.
But then the "go one more" part is every single time you do it, try, like, as it's like a training sort of thing. There's an intention to it. You're going like, okay, let's say you got like 4 hours, like, no, let's do like 3 hours and 50 minutes the first time. The second time, you don't try to go for the same time. You're like, go one more. Okay.
You want to get better.
Yeah, you want to get better. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So for like CrossFit, I gotta say, CrossFit is very difficult. I look. There's this person I follow on Instagram. I forgot his name. He's like he's beyond shredded. And he does CrossFit, and I'm just like, that's tough. But also when they do their pull-ups, I was like, that's tough on their shoulders in a certain sense. So like, since you're a strength and conditioning coach, do you use, because there's stuff you have to use, there's like their techniques and everything, do you find ways to like make it less problematic on your body, you know?
So no. Short answer, no. No, I haven't officially got a diagnosis, but I am 99% certain my left labrum is torn because of my stupidity in doing CrossFit.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's whatever. I'll live and survive. There are worse things that could happen to me. But so I mean, there's a whole lot we can dive into there. I mean, CrossFit, to me, I love CrossFit. I love the competitive atmosphere of it. I love just I've got a saying tattooed on my arm that says "seek discomfort," but like it's gonna force you into very uncomfortable moments. And
yes.
I mean, I believe that most people who do CrossFit are at least very small masochists. Like we just really enjoy suffering.
It's tough,
but it's something where it does get a bad rap because the stuff that gets publicized by it. CrossFit in and of itself is, I think, a pretty like volatile company. The people who run CrossFit are pretty volatile, and there's not a lot of, I guess, planning going on there. There are aspects of CrossFit, but I think if you look at it from an affiliate level, which is what they call their individualized gyms, I think CrossFit is an excellent way to exercise and train for the general public. What they're based upon is constantly varied functional movement done at high intensity, which is exactly what you want if you want to just live a healthy lifestyle and don't have a ton of time to train every day.
Yeah.
Like that CrossFit's excellent for that. And then there's aspects where you can train it and get really good at CrossFit. But CrossFit in and of itself, like I said, I love it because I was good enough at real sports, so this is a way for me to scratch that competitive itch and competitive desire I still have.
Yeah.
But in terms of like looking at it as a true training modality for athletes, I think it is. It's nothing I'm ever going to use with any of my teams. I'm never going to throw them into a CrossFit workout because it's just not the best or most efficient way that I could train them.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what the question was, but that's where I went with it.
Yeah, like it's just pretty tough when I see like CrossFit athletes doing like all those like variation of exercise, and it's I don't know, like with that the pull-ups especially when I see that I'm just there's a form to it, but there's also like why are the pull-ups like that? Is it because it's high intensity since like you can't really like do pull-ups too quickly, so like the way that their body like I don't know.
So butterfly pull-up, the thing that CrossFit is probably most well known for is our butterfly pull-up because everyone likes to make fun of them.
It looks intriguing when I look at it. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. So the reason they are the way they are is it's looking for just efficiency. How efficiently? Because when you look at CrossFit, the standard in a CrossFit competition is all you have to do is you have to get your arms fully extended. So fully extended, and then you have to get your chin over the bar. So how can I do that in the most efficient manner so that when I have to string together sets of like 20 or 30 of them, how can I do it without absolutely destroying myself? The butterfly pull-up. Now, if you don't have the proper base of strength and you can't execute, 10 to 12 strict pull-ups, you have no business doing a butterfly pull-up, which is where then you get into the world of like, oh, CrossFit's so bad for you because there's so many injuries. Yeah, if you're not strong enough to do it properly, it's gonna hurt you. Which is where, people need to have those good coaches to limit them and curb them when they say, oh, I want to go do X, Y, and Z, and they need to be able to say, no, you're not at that point yet. So, yes, CrossFit has its moments, and my athletes are never going to do kipping pull-ups because, you're not going to get strong doing kipping pull-ups. You can there is a reason you can string together like people like the top level CrossFit athletes have been able to string together sets of like 100 unbroken kipping pull-ups. You're never going to be able to string together 100 unbroken strict pull-ups. It's not going to happen.
Jeez.
So it's just one of those things where it's about efficiency. It's about
efficiency.
When you're in a workout and you've got to do just as many pull-ups as you can, as fast as you can, that's the fastest way to do it.
That's tough. That's something. But like, what do you do for recovery though? Like, so personally,
okay.
Like a hard day of workout, what do you normally do? What's your recovery? Like, I'm talking about like nutrition wise. I'm talking about just relaxing and literally yoga, anything like that. What do you do to recover? Because like recover is a big thing in my life. I think because I started lifting weights again, and I didn't lift for a very long time. I would say maybe it's been like 6-7 months since I lifted. And like my resting heart rate was like for those times around like 55, 56. But like I started lifting again the past 2 weeks, and like my heart rate is like 60, right? So it's like I definitely have physical stress, right?
Yeah.
Like so like what do you do to like alleviate that physical stress? Because my tissues are breaking 100%. So like what do you do?
Yeah. I think, and this is something that I am terrible at, but I think recovery starts with nutrition, eating the right things, making sure you're fueling your body the right way, it's really ironic because my girlfriend is dietetics in a dietetics master's program at Pitt in their sports nutrition program. Like she's specifically studying, doing what I should be focusing on, and I'm just so bad at it. But in a perfect world, yes, I'd eat better. Because I think food starts and like training starts and ends with proper fueling and proper food.
Yes, yes.
I don't do that well, so we're gonna go into what I actually do. I think for me, it just comes down to being able to listen to what my body's telling me. If I'm absolutely trashed from a day of training, the next day maybe I'll lighten that load, because if you want to get into the exercise, like the actual science of training, I mean, you look at how your body responds to different stressors, which are training and exercise and lifting. Your body, well, training, I mean, it's performing and it's trying to perform the certain training exercise you're doing to the optimal extent.
Yeah.
But post-training, your body's always looking to get into a state of just, why can't I think of the word right now? Homeostasis. There we go.
Perfect. Yeah.
Trying to get a state of homeostasis. It's trying to do everything as efficiently and productively as possible. And training and lifting weights is so inefficient and so against how our bodies are hardwired. Just, and we can go into that if you want to, but so against bodies are how our bodies are hardwired, so that after training, your body says, oh crap, that was crazy. Like, we need to go and just conserve a ton of energy. And so your training kind of decreases and goes behind. So like, this is like, let's just say this is your baseline here. You start training, you're gonna get up above it just a little bit, but then as soon as that training session is over, your body's kind of dropping below here, dropping below the initial baseline, because it's trying to recover, and it's in a shock phase of just, oh crap, what did we just do to ourselves? And so that kind of, like, when you're down here in that shock phase, that's where recovery is important, listening to your body. I personally have a subscription service, and I know a lot of coaches do this. Some coaches are like, oh, you should write your own workouts. I pay for people to write my workouts for me because they make me do the things I don't want to do and wouldn't program for myself to do. And then I also have a service I pay for that gives me certain stretching and recovery protocols and things to do, because that's something where without that push of like, okay, like there's money coming out of my pocket for that, I'd be really bad about it. Even though I preached all, it's like recover. It's something where it's just, it takes a certain mindset and a certain just dedication to that craft of just like, okay, like I got to recover, got to get better. So I'd say I'm big on just making sure I get the right amount of sleep. I listen to my body when my body's certain areas. I say, okay, we're going to give that a little bit of a break, let that recover, maybe focus on a different area, modify the training I had for that day.
Yeah.
And then I do a lot of stretching because it makes me feel better personally. Foam rolling too. There's a lot of differing sciences out there about the benefits of stretching and whatnot. I'm not well enough educated, and that's something I've learned now that I'm kind of leading my own, is that there is so much I don't know and so much I'm just uneducated about out there. And there are so many coaches that know so much more than I do. But at the end of the day, I think it just comes down to listening to your body, being able to eat right, and not pushing yourself, so that when you're below that baseline, instead of doing more and pushing your body farther and farther below it, you allow it to recover and then inch up just above it so that baseline gets raised just a little bit, so then you can train again.
Yeah. That makes sense, because I find that interesting that our body, that statement you said, like our bodies, that's literally not, we're not like sort of hardwired to like train like that.
Oh, not at all. If you look at just whether or not you subscribe to like the theory of evolution, which I don't necessarily subscribe to a certain extent, but if you look at how the human body developed, and if you look back at necessarily like the early human beings, like if you look back to, let's just go back to whatever time BC, human beings, their purpose was to find food, find shelter, and reproduce.
Yes.
That is where all their energy went. There was no time for, oh, let's see if I can lift a heavier rock than this guy. There was for, oh, let's see if I can outrun this guy. It was all about, okay, most efficient use of our body's energy. So you continue that. I mean, human beings as a whole, like the world has changed around us, but human beings at our baseline are still, our internal systems and our internal physiology is designed to have us run the most efficiently and most just the least stressful way possible. Like that's
Yeah.
how our body wants to operate. And training is pure stress. Your body does not care what stress is, whether it is the final exam you have to take in your class or whether it is a 400-pound back squat. Your body is going to register stress the same. Doesn't care where the source is.
Yeah.
And your body doesn't like stress. So exercise in and of itself is stress. It adds extra stress to your body, and your body freaks out and says, I don't like that. It's going to adapt to the stress because the human body is an amazing machine that can do that. But that's why there's that decline in performance initially, because your body says, that's not normal. That's not right. Like we need to like take a step back, recalibrate, figure out how to best adapt to that.
Interesting.
And the best way I can describe it is if you look at elite level weightlifters, like Olympic level Olympic weightlifters, the day before their event, the day before they go out there and compete for the gold medal at the Olympics, they are having training sessions where they are snatching and cleaning 95% plus of their 1RM, which if you looked at anyone in the world and you said, why on earth would you do something that intense a day right before competition? It's because they have trained themselves and they've pushed themselves so far to the edge of performance that they're so far away from what their body wants as homeostasis, which is down here. They're so far up here that even one day away from just that heavy training stress and stimulus, they're going to drop. Their performance is going to come down. They're not going to drop back down to the level of like myself who know where their strength levels, but you have to always be pushing and always performing, which is why, like I said, kind of going back to that exercise versus training, your training has to have a plan. If you're not always pushing it and planning and looking to advance it, you're just going to regress back to the norm.
Yeah. That's the thing you just said about the whole, like basically our ancestors, the way they, like, there were just main things that they focused on because life right now is much different. Like, yes, I'm not too big on like the evolutionary stuff, but like microevolution is true. And like, we can see that with our own eyes. Like our body adapts to things over time. But I think one key thing that like every single one of us, when it comes to exercise wise, would be running. That's one thing I could say that is in our blood, in our gene. Like there's these, I forgot, probably South America ish.
South America, Mexico. Are you talking about the Born to Run book and that tribe?
Yeah, like they basically like run, like they run a lot. But one thing that was very interesting that I read about it was the fact that it wasn't that they ran, like they weren't running a lot, like, but they basically ran in small, like they normally go like 90 miles per day, travel so long, but it's like they did it in like little, like, and it wasn't like they were sprinting. It was just like they had movement. It's a different type of movement. And also, like, first of all, they didn't really use shoes, you know?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things like one of my friends would I knew about this myself, but like training, a lot of stuff, like shoes are very like restrictive. All right. And it could cause a lot of issues over time, which is very weird because shoes help protect our feet. Right. But like, I've ran without shoes on. I remember one important thing. I remember when I was a kid, I run without shoes, barefoot. Yeah. And like, I'll never get injured. But ever since I started, like, and I was running a lot when I was a kid, like a lot. But like, ever since I started running like competitively, it's injury, right? And it's because I had to focus on form, focus on this. I had my mind on this, right? And then the shoes, they're supposed to help higher heel and all that stuff. Yeah. Still get injured, ankle sprains and all that stuff. So like, I think we deterred away from what our ancestors are really, really like used to. And we can't fight maybe like 1,000 years of change with millions and millions, because we really don't know, like, a full on, like, I'm a Christian, so I like
Yeah.
I believe that like the 6-day creation itself is also like in a poetic way. It's like a poetic. I want to say story, right?
Mhm.
Like as in
Yeah.
we can't really understand if it's 6 days. It could have been millions and millions of years, right?
Mhm.
So like as we see with evidence and everything, like
Yeah.
we can't really fight all that. Like we can't like right now we're doing GMO and all that stuff. We're eating absolutely terrible food out there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're trying to use our body to fight what our ancestors are used to. Like,
Mhm.
and that makes me also go back to this thing I read today. Actually, it was this, uh, it, the, like they're native to their place. They never left. I forgot this place, but like they have perfect teeth, and like they had a diet full of high saturated fat. They had saturated fat. It was meat, all that stuff, fresh fruits and all that. You know how they said fruit's supposed to rot your teeth and everything. Like then over time, the scientists like introduced them the Western diet. And you know what happened?
I'm assuming something that their teeth were terrible.
Teeth start to decay over like so quickly, and under like it was that same group that they tested that they saw the decay already take place. Like they were
Yeah.
starting to teeth fall off, things like that started happening, and also like they started having like cases of heart disease, which they never do,
Mhm.
right? So like that brings me like my question is, how detrimental do you think? And like if you were to look into the future, maybe like 50 years from now, do you think we would find a lot of like heart disease is going up right now, right? Breast cancer is keeps jumping
Mhm.
insanely. Like before, it was like maybe in the 50s, in the
Yeah.
60s, then it started creeping in the 40s. Now it's starting creeping in the 30s, and now 20-year-old women are getting breast cancer, and more men are getting breast cancer than ever before, right? So my
Yeah.
question is like all these things that we're doing to try to like adapt to the future, adapt to the present, and all this like new technology. Do you think like all this stuff will actually become detrimental to us?
I am, and yes. So long answer short, yes. I think people, and I mean, if we're just looking at just the case of disease, I think that comes a lot from just the culture we live in, where the world is evolving and technology is a very useful thing and it can be used for a lot of things, but people are becoming so much more dependent on it. And there's so much less just, there's so much less that you don't need technology for, if that makes sense. Like you can still do a ton of things. You can still order pizza or order something just like with a phone call, which is technology, but I mean, not to the degree where you can hop on Grubhub right now and I could order 4 different pizzas from 5 different locations and be at my house in the snap of a finger. Or
Yeah, yes.
I mean, that's just one example of it. But I mean, you're looking at a world that's becoming more reliant on these technologies and these things that are driving us away from just the simplistic nature of existence, which is, I mean, a deep subject, but just like if you look at the simplicity of how, I mean, people even live their lives 30 years ago, like in the 90s or something, like there wasn't all this other just things going on.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go back even farther, like to the mid 19th century or the 18th century, I mean, people, and they didn't have the technology to do all the things we do, but their lives were so much more simplistic. And now there are certain advances in technology if you're looking at medicine and other things that have been absolutely beneficial to the world. But then you look
Yeah.
at people's reliance on their phones or social media or television or whatever it is, and it's driving people away from existing and being present in their moments and doing things in the world, not just living in the world or existing in the world. They're not being present, they're not existing, they're not whatever the case may be, they're just they're relying on technology to do these things.
Yeah.
I think people have just gotten too caught up in the notion that there's something out there that can help me do this better instead of just being present and enjoying what's around them.
Yeah, like I had Olivia Cardarelli on for my last podcast, and she was like, she said something, and I was like, oh wow, that's pretty true. It's like when we used to be a kid, like apart from like athletes, because athletes have like they have to focus on what they're doing, right? But like exercise before when we were a kid, we got a lot of exercise in.
Yeah.
Right.
You go run around and play with your neighbors for hours.
But you don't come back, check your heart rate, and like check your stress level, check it. Like, but like this watch, like as she explained, like you're probably wearing a Garmin. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've got a Garmin.
It's a Garmin here too, and like it's a lot. We use all this to like too much information.
Yeah, so we use all the information to justify why we did what we did or why we're doing what we did instead of just doing the thing.
Yeah, and it makes us feel less of our, like, let's say you were supposed to, you wanted to go on a run, and it was a great run, right? Great run. Then you checked, it was like, well, my pace was my pace was like 8 minutes. Although you felt amazing, you're like, I wanted my pace to be like 6 minutes or something like that. Now, the watch told you your pace was this, and your heart rate was like probably like jacked up like crazy. Yeah. But you felt great. Now you're going to use that because this serves as like a sort of like a judge itself.
Validation, yeah.
And it just makes you all like depressed. And my thing is like, it sucks because everyone does this. No matter how, like, not everyone, but like no matter how much I want to say that it's a terrible thing, I still have to do it. Right? I grew up with this. I grew up like you. Like how old are you? Like, are you graduate fairly like 2000?
I'm not. I'm not ancient by any means.
Yeah. Because like you said you did the
mid-20s.
Mid-20s. Yeah. So like you sort of grew up with technology, and there's some teachers right now like, okay, like don't even get us started with like coronavirus and how it made us technologically dependent beyond anything. Now there's no such thing as snow days for kids anymore because you have Zoom, and that's where you have to go.
Yeah, you have a Zoom day instead of a snow day.
Yeah, and now kids are sort of more required to like have a laptop, right? And if they can't buy a laptop, school probably will fund the laptop or something like that. So you have technology creeping into every single place, right? It's not something you can really run away from. I know it's weird. Like people actually, like I'm gonna jump like tangent, but like people like going into like the beach or something like that, right? Like I understand it's the beach, like but like it's like a Chinese proverb. It's like I forgot how it goes. It's something like if you have to have like music in the beach, you're missing the point. That's really thin. And there's I want to understand the sort of happiness. Like, yes, there were a lot of problems back in the day, 1000%. There were so many problems, but like the stress that this causes us, is, I think it's quite insane. And it's so problematic because like it also ties into recovery because like some days I just consider myself like my recovery just like laying in the bed on my phone. But technically, I'm actually not recovering well because using my phone increases cortisol levels. Like there's this professor at Stanford University, Andrew Huberman. He has a lab itself, Huberman Lab, and they discovered that every single time you open your phone, there's a direct link to cortisol level spike. Like it could be done for good things, like like maybe like you're reading something based on strength and conditioning, right? But either way, your body increases cortisol. It makes you alert, focused, right? And then you mess up your dopamine level because you read that part, but then there's an ad to check like this new one. You click that, your dopamine, there's a cue, and then you go to it. It's a problem. Like
so much. We were talking a little bit before we started recording about how like I've just kind of tried to the best of my ability to just get rid of all my social media stuff, because it's something I found myself wasting time on. Like, and there are definitely positives you can get out of those things, but I think the world as a whole, most people don't recognize how much they're being taken advantage of through those things, and how much time can be wasted there, and how much just, I mean, you want to delve into like I know the government, like regardless of whether I'm using social media or not, knows pretty much everything about
every single thing. It's insane.
Like they know everything about me. They probably know what I had for breakfast this morning. Like, good for them. But like it just comes down to like, it can take control of you. Technology can take control of you. And I forget who said it or whatever, but like I was reading a book over quarantine called Digital Minimalism. I think it's by Cal Newport or something. And just talks about how society has just, we can't be bored anymore. People just aren't okay with sitting there with their own thoughts, or just sitting there and being bored. They have to constantly be doing something. They constantly need to be doing something. That's something I run into with my athletes a lot. Is like they'll come in and ask, like, hey, can I get extra work in? Can I do this, and that? And I'll be like, no, like we did our training today. There's a purpose behind it. You don't need to do more. Like, that's just going to defeat the purpose.
Yeah.
And that's what you see people today. They're like, oh, if I don't know X, Y, and Z, if I don't refresh it one more time, like, the refresh icons on our social media accounts are designed to keep us linked in. That's why every time you refresh it, something new pops up.
Absolutely. Engages.
It engages you. It sucks you in. I just think, and a lot of it comes down to just people not taking the time, and there's so many distractions in the world today. People don't take the time, and it's not necessarily their own fault. It's because of the world and the culture we're in. They don't take the time to sit down and really recognize and reckon with who they are, and like what they are, what they believe, what they stand for. And so those things are easy ways to get kind of like pulled in different directions and not be necessarily present in the moment or aware, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. Like, I have a question. It's sort of a very personal question, but like how happy of a person do you think you are right now, and where you are at the moment in life?
Right. I mean, and this is something that has changed very much over the course of the year, but I mean, right now I'd say I'm a very happy person. I mean, I make the joke all the time with a lot of my athletes and people who come in, but at the end of the day, I mean, I get to work in a weight room. I get to wear shorts and a t-shirt to work every day, and I get to coach athletes. That is, like, name a better job than that. It's something I love doing. It's something I enjoy doing, and people are paying me money to do it. It's not a lot of money, but like, people are paying me money to tell them to lift up heavy things and put them down.
Yeah.
But if you would ask me this same question in January of last year, I would have had a completely different answer for you. I was struggling trying to figure out what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go, what path I wanted to continue down. And at that time, I was still like heavily using social media. And this isn't to say social media, like getting rid of social media is going to solve all your problems.
Yeah.
But by doing so, it allowed me time to like, okay, like, I don't have Instagram to sit and scroll through. Like, okay, what am I going to do to fill this time? Like, okay, let's go read a book or go for a walk or do things that cause you to be present. And I think that's something a lot of people lack, is they just aren't present in their moment. They're not sitting there thinking their own thoughts or processing their own thoughts or figuring things out for themselves, because the world we live in, there's so many bubbles people exist in, and they don't ever leave bubbles.
Like, I have a funny story. It was basically during quarantine, when the whole world went into quarantine. Exclusively. We were on, like, my friends and I would like FaceTime all the time, Zoom and everything. My screen time was like 13 hours a day. Terrible. Through the roof.
Yeah.
And then by the time quarantine's about to let down, we like decided, like, group of guys and girls, we were like, hey, let's like go on a hike or something like that. We need that, right? We can finally leave our house and stuff like that. So we decided to do that. For me, I expected like everyone to actually engage with each other. Everyone, like, I didn't expect people to be on their phones, right? We get there, and literally, look, it was the funniest thing ever. It was like my best friend and I, we just saw, like, especially the group of girls for some reason, like just like on their phone taking pictures, on their phone like texting other people that were not there. And like my thing, I felt sort of, because I thought, like, this is more like a philosophical or a spiritual explanation for COVID, in my opinion. But like COVID was to, like, what happened during COVID, and every, like, this might sound insensitive. I don't know if it is, but it's basically, I believe, like, every single, like, we were taking a lot of things for granted. Like, I was taking things for granted every day. I'll eat food. I'm like, this food is terrible. Like, that sort of thing. Like, even being at home, be like, I don't want to be home anymore, or like something. Like, every single thing was not pleasurable. It was not.
Yeah.
It was not like, yes, no excitement. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
And then, like, after COVID, I started being happy, like experiencing, like going outside with my friends. So like I wanted to engage and be there. Like John and I, my best friend, we like talked about that. And like we get there and we were so like I was angry. I was mad. I was like, why are you on your phone? Like we haven't seen each other for like 4 months, and you, like, that pissed me off so badly, because it's like that shows how addicted we are.
Yeah.
Like, to be on your. Wait, what'd you say?
I said we can't put them down as listeners.
We can't.
We just can't. Yeah.
And the problem is, it's also like, I can't, with phone addiction and any sort of addiction, in my opinion, I don't think it's the person's fault always.
Mm-mm.
I don't think it's never really fully the person's fault, because first of all, addiction is like the reason why some people, like, okay, I studied a lot of neuroscience in my day. Well, I say my day, wow. And I'm still 20. I always study that. I love it. But this, they said that usually the biggest reason why you pick up your phone, it's a negative cue. So anything that, like, boredom, right?
Form of escapism.
Yeah. You pick up your phone, you pick up some sort of technology. Why? It's because there you can find high amounts of novelty, right?
Yeah.
Right. And it takes barely to any, it doesn't take work at all, right? If you're trying to find novelty in, like, the world, in a present world, you're going to have to
put effort into it.
Yeah. You're going to have to pick up a book, or like start reading, or you're just like, oh, I'm bored. Like then you pick up your phone, or like you try to go out, engage with a conversation with someone. It's tough. But these like, there's UX design, UI design. It's a type of a job that people in the tech industry have, and they're basically psychologists of, like, the phones, like the way it looks, the structure, the aesthetic, where you're gonna click. The more user accessible it is, the more people are gonna. It's crazy. Yeah. Like I watched this Netflix documentary. The social dilemma. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they started with two things. It was like there's only like two things that I forgot how they worded it. There's like two jobs that only, like, label their people users. It's either for, like, drug
addiction, or social media.
They call us users, and we are technically users. We want more. Why do you, when you have an iPhone 7 and the iPhone 8 came out, why the hell did you buy an iPhone 8?
Yeah.
When your iPhone 7 was working perfectly fine. Like, exactly. That's the problem. And my thing is, like, it's not the person's fault. It's that these people are doing, like, they're doing high research on us because they have so much data on us. So, like, Facebook keeps getting sued, like, constantly, because they give out our data to different people.
We're it's being bought and sold, and people are saying, "Oh, what is this person viewing here? I'll give you X amount of money for that because then I'll get X amount of money for advertising to them." Like,
Yeah,
yeah, it's a free market.
it's I think that by 2030 itself, that there's not like right now we care about money, we care about we care about oil, we care about all that stuff. I think data will be the new like just currency itself.
Yeah.
Data itself, because these are what data is what these companies, which they control a lot of things in my opinion. Like people say people are like, oh, government are problematic. My thing is governments, yeah, maybe. Corporations, they're
Oh
more
yeah.
problematic than you think. They can donate hundreds of millions of dollars to a certain cause that they want, lobby that, and they will get
Money
it.
talks.
Yeah. Why do
Yeah.
they have that much money? It's because we give them that much money. Because every second you spend on Instagram makes them more money.
Yeah.
Every second you spend on Snapchat makes them more money. We forget that Instagram, like Snapchat, WhatsApp, all like there's been so much problem. Like WhatsApp, it saves all your chats. It saves everything, all your pictures, videos, all that stuff, and we still allow it to. We still do it. We still use it.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, why do you think like we're aware of all this privacy issues? We're aware of everything that's going on. That like you talk to anyone, they're gonna be like, yeah, I know they do it. Why do we just still continue to just use it? Not like revolt, V for vendetta, like that sort of thing. Why don't we do that?
I honestly, I just think people don't care. I mean, but like they're at a point where it's not like this isn't like Edward Snowden leaking that the U.S. government was spying on us. This is people like, oh yeah, the U.S. government's spying on me. Like I said, they probably know what I had for breakfast today. Like whatever. Like people are just of the mindset where I think like, okay, like they're gonna get what they want and they're gonna know about it, and there's nothing I can do about it. Um, ah,
Like, do you
I think
personally
it's.
care?
I mean, yes. Like I don't want my dad out there being sold to the world, and but I already know it's out there. Like I used Instagram and all those things for enough time that I know that stuff is out there, and it's taken. Like it's gone.
Yeah.
But you look at it, and I think like they're gonna get what they want. Money talks. People are gonna get what they want, but I think what we can do outside of that is take a step back and kind of evaluate everything. Look at what you're doing and say, okay, look at where I'm putting my time, look where I'm putting my resources, and kind of evaluate from there and say, okay, that's not maybe what I stand for. That's maybe not like maybe I say I stand for this thing, but I'm not doing things that support my belief or stance or whatever it is. And taking those step backs and reevaluating what you're looking at, what you believe in, and being able to be real with yourself and recognize and have those hard conversations where, okay, like these are areas where I'm falling short. How can I improve them?
Yeah.
What can I do to improve them? What is causing me to fall short in those areas? Because, yeah, like, no, me and my dad have constant conversations about how we wish we could just go start just a rogue nation somewhere in the middle of like Alberta and just boom, wall ourselves off, just boom, there we go, we're done. But I mean, the world is so interconnected now, whether we like it or not. I don't think you can escape it. There's no escaping it. I think what you can do is buffer yourself and try to separate yourself from that connection as much as possible. Yeah. Utilize it how it benefits you, but don't become surrounded by it.
Don't let it use you in a certain sense.
Yeah.
Like it's a tool, but now like social media is using us. Like I'm not sure I'm allowed to say this since we have rules at Eastern, but I went out to dinner the other day and went out to eat, and I forgot my phone because I was charging it. And
Uh-huh. There's a small sense of dread there. You're like, what am I missing?
I kept like any silent moment that we went out, like it
Yeah.
was old boys. We were just sitting down eating food. We were talking very well, but like time to time, I reached for my phone in my pocket, and I
Yeah.
touched it. Like I knew it wasn't there. I was like, "Hmm." And I still went back for it. It's like
Yep.
there's that. It's like the smoke.
We're so trained. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the cigarette. Like what's it called? When cigarette addicts are trying to like to try and recover. What do they call it? It's like no, not relapse. Relapse is when you go back into it, right?
Quit.
Yeah, when they're just trying to quit itself. I forgot like when they go into the um like facilities and stuff, but like when they're trying to quit, like one thing that's weird that actually helps them is like it's not the actual cigarette, but
it's the action.
it's the action of it. So like let's say you don't want to touch this, take that cigarette. Even doing this for some reason helps. Just like okay, there's a high dopamine spike that goes on there. Because also this has messed up our dopamine levels. I think almost everyone's dopamine level is messed up now.
And that's just going. This is just a little sidebar I want to get into real quick. To anybody listening, I'm like, delete whatever like social media app you use the most. Delete it from your phone for 2 days, and then just count the number of times you open your phone without thinking and swipe to where that app is.
Jeez. It's funny. I actually did that before, and I wasn't tough enough for no reason, and I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah,
you go because I have it in the box like with my social media, and that exact spot I want to click and just Sometimes I just close my phone during that time. I did it for a week actually with my friends on, and it was tough.
Yeah.
It was
you
tough.
just go and you mindlessly open your phone, you swipe to that spot, and you go to click, and you say, "It's not there."
Yeah, and like with this dopamine problem, like messed up and everything. That's why I asked you a question about how happy you are in your life right now. Like, you definitely use phones less, like your phone less, because also you're kind of busy. You're almost
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so you're busy. You're trying to make a name for yourself. You're working hard. The thing is, like, happiness is also it's kind of ruined when we have this on a daily basis, right? Yeah, your life fixed. Like your life became better over time. Like from January, as you explained last year, till now. Like you were in a rut and got out of it by God's grace.
Yeah.
But there were stuff like many things that you also did that helped you. As you explained, it's like, instead of touching my phone or going on social media, go on a walk or like maybe read a book or let me just talk to my girlfriend or just have a conversation with a friend or something like that. With those, like I see once you start shifting into a more productive, as you explained, a present view.
Yeah.
I think happiness is, you start to find it there. Like my other question is, do you think it's proper to try to seek for happiness since we're in a world where there's so much anxiety, so much depression, right? And people are like social media teaches like, go seek happiness. Happiness is here, this and that. Like, do you think it's a proper thing to actually go seek happiness? Because many people can't even find it anymore. Do you think we should go do that? Like, I'm going to go on a journey to go find it. Do you think that's?
Yes, I think, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like some crazy, like you don't have to pack up your bag and go hike through nature for 3 years to find happiness. But I think it comes down to taking just as simple as a personal journey. Like people have situations and people have responsibilities that they can't get out of, whether it's you're a student and you have school, you're a parent and you have kids, you have a job, whatever it is. There are certain responsibilities you're not going to be able to get rid of. You're not going to be able to get around.
Yeah.
There are so many things, and you may not even realize it until you stop and think about it, that you can control and you can do within your own individual, within your own day. life that you can change and just shift that perspective. One of the things I'm trying to get better at, and one of the things mindset wise I like to try and do is just the simple shift from like I have to do this thing, I have to do that thing, to I get to do these things. Like there are a lot of people in the world who would love to have the stress I have of being able to walk into a grocery store and buy my groceries for the week. Because there are a lot of people in our country, let alone the world out there, who like they cannot afford to go grocery shopping.
Yes.
Like it's just trying to shift those thoughts. So many people in like the industry I work in fitness or strength conditioning, people always talk, oh, I have to get into this shape or that shape, or I have to get to this point before I start exercising. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, start where you are. There's no need to get farther along and then start, because if you just start now, wherever you are, doesn't matter where you just start making those small changes. It comes back to what we started with. Nothing changes if nothing changes. Make those small changes. I don't care. And this is like my biggest, like why I love what I do, is that training in the weight room does not care what you look like, what you can lift, what you can do. If you go in to a training session or an exercise session, whatever you're doing, if you walk into a building, it doesn't even have to be a building. If you do something with the intent of bettering yourself from an exercise perspective, it doesn't matter if you squat 700 pounds or you struggle doing an air squat. It's going to lead to progress. You're going to get better, because eventually that one air squat that you struggle to do is going to turn into 2 air squats. It's going to turn into 3 squats. It's going to turn into you squatting the bar, which is just 45 pounds. You have to somewhere. You can't wait for certain circumstances to come. You have to make those changes. You have to go get them. So yes, back to your question. Like, I think people need to seek out, and they need to go on, even if it's just a journey of their own mind, they have to seek out those pieces of happiness, because this world is so very stacked against people. I think I don't say that broadly, because there are certain people, you look at many of the protests we've had in the last year, like there are groups of people, Black Americans in this country, who have had situations that have things stacked against them, compared to a white male like myself, who has a lot more opportunities just systematically. But like, you look at these things, and just from a simple happiness perspective, people can find ways within their own lives to be happy.
I think that the answer is inside us. Like, you don't have to actually pack your bags to go do anything. It's more, as this whole conversation we just had revolves around, it's that mindset shift. It's that nothing changes if nothing changes. It's true. Because a lot of people are in a rut right now, like, especially coronavirus. Like, we're having, like, there's so many people, like, unemployment skyrocketed. Like,
people are struggling. Like, you look at it, like, there have been a lot of people who, it sounds like you and me, have done a good job of kind of handling the situation that COVID gave us and trying to turn the best out of it. But there are people who, they lost jobs, or they went from being able to, like, living their ideal life, to then having that just stripped away and not being able to do the things that they had become so accustomed to doing. I kind of interrupted you, so I don't know where exactly this was going, but
I liked what you just said. And I think the best thing that we could give the world is just every single year, like Andrew Huberman said this, it was like, he was talking to the Navy SEAL, one of his buddies, and he's just like, what are you going to give the world this year? What are you going to give back to the world? It's like, oh, what do you mean? It's like, every single year give something back to the world, because as you have this like old different way of like thinking about what you do, as in I'm blessed to do this right now. Like, yeah, going after work, I'm tired. I don't want to go sleep or watch something.
Yeah.
I have to go make grocery, pump gasoline,
Yeah.
all that stuff. If you look in the perspective, like, geez, I'm pretty lucky to be able to do this. I'm pretty lucky to spend money actually, because I have money to spend.
Yeah.
While other people are like,
people expect to get by. Yeah.
yeah, $15, like honestly, $15 an hour, and they're not even working full time. That's tough.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough. And there are parents living like that.
Yeah.
So, and they still have kids to take care of. So they work like 4 jobs, 3 jobs. And this is constant. And my thing is, that doesn't have, like, yes, there's definitely like there's a lot of race issues in America, problematic.
Yeah.
But like, this doesn't have a boundary. This also does not, like, being unhappy, feeling just not present in the world, all these social media problems, right? Every single thing of like just unemployment does not have a border. It goes to everyone. I came from a different country. I was born in Nigeria. I came here when I was 7. The people that helped us out, they were white, they were black, or Cuban, right? They helped us out. And like from that, like I saw that there's good in every single person, 1000%. But the reason why some people can do good is because they're aware of the terrible things that can happen. Like Bob Marley, said that the reason, I think it was Albert Einstein. I can't remember. It was just basically like the worst. I'm going to paraphrase. It's like the worst thing is like when good people are sitting down and the bad people are, doing their work. Actually.
Yeah.
It's very bad. That's a very terrible paraphrase of it. But like, that's very true though. Like, I'm able to be who I am right now. And like, I'm no way good, but like, I try to be a decent person. I try to live as if God exists. And like, for me, it's really like about, I've seen problems, I've seen issues and even for you've seen what it means to be in a rut.
Yeah.
And you've seen what it means to also be a 150-pound, 6'2" per. Yeah. And through that rut you have been in, you found a way to get out of it, right? And with that, thank God you're not like hubristic about it. You use that to fuel something, and I love that because like next time you see someone in that same rut, you see someone going through a problem, you're gonna be an helping hand instead of a instigator, instead of a person that puts them down, right?
Yeah.
The people that are instigator put people down, they didn't actually learn from what happened in their life, because everyone has, even a billionaire kid has a problem, will go through an issue, an emotional problem, but like it's how you learn. Some people don't actually learn from that trauma they went through, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm just quite happy that I was able to take Corona and like turn it, like 2020 wasn't 2020. It was just Corona, and like it was a parasite, but in many different ways. People lost their jobs. The parasite of just being unhappy, feeling lost. Like I hate being at home like all the time. I hate just being in one place, and I had to be in one place, and I felt like my life paused, and I don't like that. So I needed to figure out what I wanted to do. So I sat down and started drawing things out in my mind, be like, okay, if I have this time, then what can I do? So I took this as an opportunity to start what I always wanted to do, is talk to people. I love talking to individuals, because every single person, no matter who you are, they have some sort of story to bring to the world.
Yeah.
So my question, this whole spiel I just had, like, what? I think it's pretty cool to ask this, but do you plan maybe next year, maybe tomorrow or anything? What do you want to give back to this world, to the world, to the people?
That is, what do I want to give to the people? Oh man. That's That's tough. I don't know. I think you kind of you touched on the idea that so many people are the people who seem to be happiest are the people who aren't necessarily those instigators, but they're looking to give back and just give of themselves, which is what I believe any good coach does, which is why I'm drawn to this profession is, any good coach understands that at the end of the day, their job isn't about them.
Yeah.
It's the athlete or the client or whoever it is they're working with. It's about that person. And that's where I think a lot of people have struggled is that the world is so set into, okay, what can I get for myself? What can I do to get this? What can I do to better my position? And
Yeah.
there's not necessarily anything wrong with those things, but you don't need to continuously be searching to get. I really want to try and just like give back to my athletes. Like I had a couple coaches who I worked under, the coaches that I worked under, those guys like did so much for me and shaped so much of who I am now as a coach and as a person. Like I wasn't even their athletes. Like they didn't have to. I was a confused intern who didn't know what the hell was going on. Just totally. But they let me come in. They let me make mistakes. They let me learn my stupid questions. They answered my semi-intelligent questions. Like they just let me figure things out. I want that to be something that I can do for other people. Like I want to be able to give back to others, not necessarily in like traditional sense, but I want to be able to help people and educate them and help them grow as persons. It's something where as a coach, I have this opportunity, especially, and that's why I'm so drawn to like the collegiate level of coaching and not necessarily a private sector or high school or whatever, because college is such a formative stage to be able to have that impact on the young men and women I get to work with and be able to just in some small way push them or shape them or just if we're thinking of the person as like a piece of art, like just even be able to put like just one line into that piece of work and be able to help shape them into who they're going to be. I think that's why I do what I do. That's why I love what I do, is because I have that opportunity to play even a minuscule role in helping shape someone's life.
Yeah.
Which may be overselling what I do because at the end of the day, I'm an over-glorified gym coach, but
No, but it's definitely not oversell because of the fact that it's what drives you. It's that feeling you get when you go to work. So like, it's not having to work for you personally.
Like that there are days that I come home and I go, why on earth do I do? But those days are way outnumbered by the days where I see one of my athletes do something that they thought for certain they were never going to be able to do, whether it's lift a weight or make a certain run time or whatever it is, just even those small things. I haven't been in the profession long enough to see really any of the athletes I've gotten to work with progress and grow into their careers and have hopefully I have enough of an impact on some of the athletes that, like 10, 15 years from now, I get an email or from them or something like, hey, Coach Ross, like, don't know if you remember me, but like, I really appreciated the impact you had on me at this time. If and X, Y, and Z has helped me do this now and become whatever. Like that is ultimately like what I want to get out of this, is be able to just like know 15 years down the road that whoever, like whatever athlete can look back and say like, oh yeah, Coach Ross was like, he was a good dude and he in some way like helped me better myself now.
And I'm sure based on what I've heard about you throughout the school, I am sure you're going to get that because you're like, I don't use that word lightly. I don't call a lot of people affable. Like I don't. and like you're an affable guy. Your reputation precedes you, and that's a good thing. So
I appreciate that.
no problem, no problem.
I think that's overselling me as a person, but I'll take what I can get.
It's a boost, and it puts you in the right way. And like I'm telling you that based on what I've heard by people, you're doing great. You're doing great. And this is, I think, my best trait about you. My favorite trait about you is the fact that you're aware that you don't know a lot. You don't know everything. And
that's one of my favorite sayings. You don't know what you don't know. Like you are so unaware of what you are not aware of. Like if anyone ever gets to a state, and this is something one of my mentors, Coach Lemieux at Kent State, told me. He said, if you ever get to a place where whoever you work under tells you that X, Y, or Z is the only way to do something, he said, leave, because if you don't know what you don't know, and if you get to a point where you think you know everything, you're done for.
That's a little bit problematic. It's I don't know. Hubris can kill a lot.
Yeah.
And it's just it doesn't even have to kill. It just to kill the self itself. So that's important. But like, I definitely will have you on this podcast again. I like your energy. And maybe in the next time, because I know based on the conversation we had about the technology, I know like maybe like we can talk about, because I'm trying to put on, I'm going to have a different like season for something, which has to do, because I like to talk about ancient civilizations, and I like to talk about UFOs especially.
Okay.
And those are very interesting things to like really, because people are unaware of the facts that these things are actually like governments have clarified a lot of information. Pentagon's releasing way more stuff, things that happened like Zimbabwe in like 1998 or stuff, like things like that, like events that took place that like hundreds of people have actually seen with their own eyes. Like I just want to like bring that, and I think I want to put you a part of that, hopefully. That would be great with like a few other people. That would be awesome. So like, but thank you for coming on.
Sure.
You were an amazing guest.
I hope so. I hope someone finds this, interesting.
Oh no, that it'll be well watched. So like, thank you for that. And also I pray to God that you just keep this happiness that is in you. And when suffering, because life brings suffering, it's immense. When it does come, when it does come, I hope that you can find purpose within it. Like there's this book I love. It's by Viktor Frankl, Man Searching for Meaning. And it says, suffering is not suffering when purpose is present. It's not. And with that fueled a certain rage in me when I'm suffering. I'm just like, I'm not even trying to battle that suffering. I'm just trying to find that purpose within it.
Yeah.
And with you, like talking about the military, like all that's like, these are the things people like, people who are like the Navy SEAL, like, what's it called? What is that test they do? SEAL, is it SEAL week? No, it's not SEAL week.
Oh, they're Buds week?
Yeah, but that is insane. It's a human trial of everything. So like, and the people that got through it, like there was a documentary and they talked about it. It turns out it wasn't about the people that actually got through it are the people that found purpose within it. It's like, I have to do this, not because my dad was in it or my mom. Like, it's literally because I have to do it because there's maybe this person believes wholeheartedly that they will change the world with this. The drive. It's not motivation. It's literally like dedication to this. I believe that. So like you, I'm sure you can find that.
Oh yeah.
So, and like the thing you went through in January, like it definitely helped shape who you are more today.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming on. People are gonna love watching this. I can already tell. Like, it's gonna be great. You're such an affable dude. I just enjoy you talking to you. Thank you.
I appreciate it, Fermi. Yeah, no, thank you for having me. If I become, a podcast star, this is where I started,
You have a good day.
You too, man.